Welcome to ShatterCast, another episode this evening where we're going to be talking about the 3 types of content to grow your business. Now, I like to do a little analogy with this, and I like to do something that is a very visual representation of it. When I've looked into content before, and one thing I've realized over the years is that content seems to fit into 3 different categories. I played with the idea of calling them pillars. I ended up calling them different stages, just simply because happening in a certain order seems to have a bigger effect than it would if you just had a bit of a scattergun approach. So I liken it to a rocket launch. I think I was watching a rocket launch at the time when I was thinking about this weirdly. And the 3 different stages is visibility, authority, and conversion. Most, if not all, content should fall into one of those 3 stages. Now, visibility is your first stage. I see that as your side boosters, your little boosters that get you off the ground, they get you seen, they get you visible in the sky, and they can only take you so far, because then you need to give something more. You need to give more out to your audience to be able to reach that next step. So eventually, once they've sort of burned out all their fuel, they break away, and the heavy booster kicks in. Now, the heavy booster takes you up into the atmosphere, and this is where, for the rocket nerds, this is where you reach something called max Q, which is the highest point of pressure on the shuttle as they launch. So in business terms, or what you're trying to build, this is where your authority content is. This is where you're going to reach the maximum amount of pressure, because it's where you've really got to show your worth. It's where you're going to position yourself as an authority figure through a different format of content. Now, again, that can get you so far, but you then still often need something to push people over that final line. And that is, once the heavy booster is done, then you have the shuttle or the capsule or whatever it is, then do its final bit. And this is your conversion content, and it's why they call it the payload. Now, I thought that was pretty clever, and I didn't realize it until I actually said it out loud when I was figuring it out, that sort of the payload thing worked out really, really well. So that's my visual representation of that and how you go through those different stages. And we'll explore those different stages a lot more during this episode. But I think the importance of this really is around the customer journey and knowing and understanding that customer journey and where different types of content can really have an impact on the customer journey, and to really generate not just leads in general, but higher quality leads. So, Nath, I'll come to you first. What's the power of having the right content in the right place for that customer journey once you reach that point of conversion?
I think for me, it's very much a case of having it in the right order helps to build the authority. You capture their attention to start off with your 30-second videos and minute videos. Those are the bits. That's what we call the hook. That's the bit that actually captures your attention, stops you from scrolling, and goes, actually, that was interesting. And then you've got your longer form videos where you're actually creating that authority piece, which is all around. I mean, if you think about it, Tony Robbins, everybody's watched videos of it, but the value really sticks in those longer form videos. They might capture your attention with a 30-second minute clip, which is great, but actually there's no real value in it other than it stopped you from scrolling and went, aha, this guy knows what he's talking about. And then you go and watch an hour video and there's some true value in that. And that's that authority piece. But then there's always what's the next step? Once you've done that, what do you want to do? You want to go and see him at a seminar, or you want to go and see him in person. So you then go and go, okay, so how do I do that? Because I've enjoyed watching all of this. There's only so much I can take in or absorb or know or learn from watching YouTube. What's the next step that I can take? I can go and watch him live. Okay, so how do I do that? And that's where the conversion piece comes in. That's where you actually, as you mentioned, get your payload. That's where you convert them.
Alex, so what's the benefit of doing it in the right order? What could happen if you do it out of order, or maybe you do the conversion content first? What's the risk?
It's in terms of customer journey, it's all about like what's natural. I mean, people tend to talk, there's a lot of marketing jargon like funnels, for example. You get attention, interest, engagement. You sort of funnel people down, and that's good jargon. But basically, we always have to look at it from the viewpoint of the customer, like who's just a human being. How do human beings make decisions? and we can put our marketing jargon on it. But basically, you make a decision by sort of something gets your interest, something hooks you in. There's some kind of idea there. Oh, this is where I am. I'd like to be there. There's a bit of a gap. Ooh, should I? Shouldn't I? Let's learn a bit more. Yes, I think this is good. Let's test it out. Okay, I've made a decision. So just we know what it's like to buy things, and you can kind of structure that. So when you're looking at, say, visibility, authority, conversion, what you've got to look at is people make decisions roughly the same way, but in different time frames. And I think, like in marketing, they often say it takes anywhere between like 8 to 15 touches, which is like interactions, until somebody who interacts with your brand actually buys or becomes a customer. And that's quite a lot. So people who have this idea about video, oh, well, I just press play and go live and do it sporadically. What you need to start thinking about is like, what's the function of this content? So I say you could do a conversion piece and just do a conversion thing like a webinar video or a VSL, fine. But then how many people are actually going to go to it? And if people don't convert, where else are they going to go? So if you just focus on conversion content, great, you might make a little bit of money, but you won't make that much because people need to be warmed up. You can't just put them all in a conversion environment and just say buy, buy, buy. Although saying that, you also just can't be just doing value add videos all the time and never actually asking for the money. So there's a time and place for everything. So it's like, definitely have some conversion content, just content that's basically saying, here's who I am, here's what I do you want it, here's how to get it, kind of stuff. But then the visibility and authority content is the stuff where you just show up, add value, build a relationship. You're just a continually part of somebody's world. And I think we all of us, I think we have content creators or businesses where we like their stuff. We vibe with them for whatever reason, and we actually enjoy watching it. It's not like we don't feel like we're in a marketing funnel. We don't feel like, oh, I'm being marketed to. We just enjoy the process of learning, growing, spending time with certain people. And that's really what you want to create content for, is so that people who would be your best clients or customers, they watch it and they're like, oh, I like this. I like spending time with these people. I'm getting value from it. I feel like I'm making progress. Then at some point, chances are they're going to watch your conversion content and they're going to go, now's the right time. I'm going to buy. And that might be, 6 months after they first come into your world. But if you're consistent about this, and if you understand what type of content you're creating, it just means that you're probably going to win the game long term, because there's chance that somebody who comes into your world is going to convert at some point. So I'd say that's kind of the big picture.
Yeah, and I think there's a key thing that you touched on there, which is the time period. And I think this is what a lot of people get wrong, is they'll do a couple videos, not get many views, not get much interaction, and they'll say it doesn't work for me. And ultimately, all this is about, all the visibility game is about, it's not about every single video you put out, whether it's a short form or long form. Not everyone is going to land with everyone. Some of them won't land at all. Some of them will be terrible. Some of them will be great. But the idea is that you are there consistently, adding value, being present, and being visible. Visible doesn't mean you're going to convert them like that. It means that you've got to be there, because everything is about timing, and not your timing, but the potential client's timing, and when is right for them, which is uncontrollable for us as business owners. For us trying to sell, we can't control when their time is right. The best thing we can do is be visible and be present, so that when the time is right, you're front of mind. So they're ready to take that next step, whether that next step be the sale, or whether it be, oh, actually, I've heard this guy talking about it, let me learn a little bit more. And that's where they'll then transition into that authority content. Now, the authority content is essentially, it's more of the longer form medium. It's where people are wanting to and willing to invest more time into your content. And your job when you're in the authority content creation space, I would say, is to get them to binge more authority content. The research has shown the more content that somebody consumes, the more likely they are to take whatever the next step is that you're wanting to offer. Obviously, long form content, king of long form content, or video especially, is YouTube. Probably always will be. I can't see it getting knocked off that space. It's obviously having its little battles when it comes to short form content, which it seems to be turning the tide on from the statistics that I've seen. TikTok seems to have started to plateau a little bit, and TikTok users are coming back to YouTube because they can transition to that longer form stuff as well. That's not saying TikTok's dead by any means. It's still a very, very powerful place to be. But it's one of those things that if your timing is right and you are consistently there, consistently present, consistently adding value, people will look to take that next step. What else do you feel is the importance of authority-based content? I'll go with Alex.
I think there's a number of things that come under authority. And to be honest, like visibility and authority can kind of be the same in some ways, because I mean, it's like what point somebody comes in. Obviously, in our world, visibility tends to be a little bit shorter, authority may be longer, but somebody they can both kind of serve a similar function. But basically, in authority, it's adding value to people, giving tips or tricks, showing people behind the scenes, letting them get to know you, overcoming common myths or limiting beliefs, showing people like why they're really stuck. Like, hey, if you have any of these issues, blah, 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 you probably feel like the issue is this, but actually it's this. Showing them why they're frustrated, why other services maybe haven't helped. There's a whole bunch of stuff that can kind of come under that banner. But essentially, it's just like, what are people looking for, actually physically searching in search terms that you can solve? So do those. What questions do people regularly ask you when they work with you? Answer those, answer specific questions. And just basically like, and what other things are people consuming that your competitors are doing? Do the same videos except better. So you're basically just looking at like, how can I add value? How can I demonstrate my authority? And quite often, authority is not demonstrated by how many years you've been doing something or how many certifications you have. It's instead done by how well you can describe the situation the client is in. Because if you can come along and just describe the pain they're feeling, the situation, the things they've probably done, if you can describe that, they're instantly going to go, well, you're the expert. I don't care if you've got a certificate on the wall. You know me, so I trust that chances are you know what you're doing. So if I then enter into a piece of conversion content, I've already built that relationship, and so I'm going to lend you a lot more authority than I did if I didn't know you. And I mean, one of the things, because you mentioned TikTok, like one of the things I've tend to find about people who really master content is that they learn to enjoy the process. Because people will go, well, which platform should I be on? Should I do business on TikTok, on YouTube? I mean, obviously we have our favorites, but I've seen people sell to all types of people on every platform. The thing you've got to do is you've got to enjoy the platform and you've got to enjoy the process. Like I'm not particularly a TikTok person, so I don't go to it. I do like YouTube. But I know people who've smashed it with even high-ticket B2B offers on TikTok. And you'd be like, well, why are all these business owners on TikTok? Well, they are. And if you're somebody who enjoys it and you like the content and you get like excited about, oh, I get to do another TikTok video, you should be doing it. Like, because you're gonna. So, in a sense, it almost doesn't matter about the platform. What matters is, do you enjoy the platform? Do you understand it? And do you enjoy the process of creating content? Because if you do, if content is just like a tick box exercise of like, oh, I've got to do another video, well, chances are that's going to come across in your content. Whereas if you actually enjoy it, if it's a process of, oh, great, I get to make some videos, I get to have fun, I get to share with people, that enthusiasm is going to come across in your content. So I just kind of wanted to put that across because I think that's an important point a lot of people miss, is like, it's not just about sitting down, writing some titles, sticking the video on. It's about the state. It's about your intention. And in a sense, it's not about the platform. It's about, do you enjoy the process? Because that's going to come through in everything you do.
Especially when it comes to that longer form stuff in the authority content. Like, that's not an easy job. To be able to produce longer videos is a lot harder than people give it credit for. But it gives you the opportunity to deep dive into your experience and your expertise. Gives you a chance to tell stories, and to really show off what you're about and what you know. And again, if you actually enjoy that process, then that's really going to come across, and it's really going to help the video not be stale. It's really going to help build that relationship and trust with your audience, because they're going to see the passion coming through in what you do, and they're going to feel it. And if they can feel it, they can buy into it. If they can buy into it, then you've got their trust and you can take them to that next step. Nath, when it comes to the sales part of the experience, do you ever find that there's people that are still somewhat on the fence, but you actually find that the authority content, you can almost throw them back to help re-engage them or get them across the line?
Yeah, I think, I mean, from a sales point of view, I've never worked or with a company that hasn't said they want more leads. And I think what it enables you to do is actually all of the content that you're recording, whether that's short form or long form, it irons out your sales messaging. So you kind of can go back to it and go, okay, so what are the key things that we solve for clients? And you can actually tag them and send them links and things like that. So when you're outreaching, you can kind of use those videos as a tool to say, look, we know what we're talking about. Have a look at this. These are the problems that we solve for ABC type clients, just like you, or businesses with XYZ problems. These are the problems that we solve. Have a look at this video. We think this would be great for you. Even if you're kind of doing outreach on LinkedIn, for example, you can direct them directly to something that is a pain point that you know that if you're doing things the right way from a sales point of view, you know who you're targeting, you know what problems they've got, and you can go, right, this is my finite list of people that I want to outreach to. And I know that they're going to have these problems and these situations, and they will find value from these videos. And you can point them directly to the pain points and the problems and say, look, if you're having these kind of problems, ABC, go and watch this video and it'll tell you how to get XYZ result. And then when you pick up the phone and actually have a conversation with these people, they know that you've already set the authority piece in play because they know what you're talking about and they know who you are and they trust you. And they go, well, why wouldn't they want to do business with you? Because you're going to solve XYZ problem for me. The conversation switches to quite quickly to a trust built already for you. And most people nowadays are inbound specialists. I think outbound is very much a highly skilled skill set, but most businesses that we work with day in, day out are actually inbound specialists. They haven't got the skill set as yet to go outbound. And so from an inbound kind of point of view as well, there's no better asset to have than an authority piece that's already set up for you, because people are coming knocking on your door. You're just having the conversion conversation at that point. And you've already outlined what problems they've got and what problems you can solve them and help them with.
Well, it's evergreenistic, because I think there's two things I just sparked me off from what you just said, Nathan, is like, because I saw them today, and so somebody was running an event that they've run before, and they'd previously done a video about it, just outlining the event. So, and this was for several years ago, but they run the same event every year. So of course they go back straight away to what works. So they're like, oh, hey, I'm thinking of running this event. If you're in a room and I showed you XYZ, would that be interesting? By the way, if you want any information, just DM me. Sends them the video, because he knows it works. So sends them the video. By the way, if this sparks your interest, just let me know, blah, 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 blah. So that's an evergreen asset. And then the same thing also happened today. I was introduced to somebody, just like a coach about something interesting. And the guy DM'd me on LinkedIn and he just said, oh, hey, do you mind if I just add you to a little group that talks about what I do? So I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Adds me to a WhatsApp group, right? Totally cool. It immediately pings me like 5 testimonials and then a bunch of YouTube videos that he's embedded in the WhatsApp group. Why did he do that? Because they outline all of the stuff that he could tell me about what he does and who he does it for. And they've got lots of views and comments on them because he's used them regularly. So like, when we're talking about video, it's not always just like, oh, once and done, as you said. It's a sales asset. It's a marketing asset. It's something you can reuse time and time again. You can send it to people, outreach that you might work with. And best of all, like if you know that it's worked in the past, that means it's going to work again and again and again. It won't really burn out. So I think as a sales asset, as a sales piece, because you could pitch for like 45 minutes, or you could just send them a video that's really cool. And that will do all the heavy lifting. And then when you actually get on the call with them, you go, any questions? Because the video's done the heavy lifting. Like, if you've got any questions after watching this video, ping them across to me and I'll happily answer them on a call. That's a very different dynamic to being totally cold and unprepared.
Video is kind of like having another member of your team who is constantly in sales 24/7, doesn't moan, doesn't take holidays, doesn't take sick days, and they are just there providing value constantly and backing you up and reinforcing your message. So that's why it's a ridiculously powerful thing. And when you've got platforms like YouTube, etc., which is free to set up on, like I mean, think about that for a minute. You've got a global platform that you can go as simple as putting your phone camera on, filming yourself talking, uploading it absolutely free, and get your message out to the world. Like, when people whinge about algorithms and stuff like that, they seem to forget that these platforms are free. They have free advertising, free marketing. So if you're not in control of it, don't whinge about it, but like, make the most of it. Like, understand it the best you can, make the most of it, and really try and reap the benefits from it as well. I know we've touched on it a little bit, so Nathan, I'll probably throw this one back at you, being the sales guy. So we spoke heavily about how visibility content and authority content is very value driven, because you have to build that trust, and it's about building the relationship, which could be en masse, so you could be building it with lots of people at once. How do you then take them from that value driven content into conversion content without devaluing everything into suddenly, oh, here's a sale?
Because naturally they've watched your content because it's of interest to them, and if it's providing value to them, you're basically just having a chat. It's not a sales call. It's a does I sell XYZ product? Does this product solve the problems that they should have? Because if they're watching it, they'll have one of the problems or pain points that you can solve for them. So actually, you selling to them is you helping them. It's not you selling to them. You're doing it because it's a transaction. They're going to pay you for you to solve their time, save them time, solve the problem, whatever that is that your product or solution is selling or resolving for them, rather. So the conversation is a conversation. It's nothing more than, like, it's not a sales call. It's not pushy. What it does is it positions you as the authority figure, and your job then is to say, you've got XYZ problem. Can I solve it? Yes, I can. This is how we can do it, and this is how we can help you to get to wherever it is they want to get to. And it's called closing the gap. Your current state, future state. What is the gap between where you are currently to where you want to be? And this is the steps that we will take to get there. And that in itself will just be a conversation. It's not a sales call. So you're not trying, unless you are selling them something that doesn't actually resolve their issues, you won't lose the trust, because the trust is there because you can fix the problems that they're facing. So by you not pitching them, I often get asked this when I was coaching sales teams and things like that. Actually, by you not pitching them the product, is you doing them a disservice, because if you're not going to tell them how to get to where they need to get to, i.e. sell them the product, actually you're not actually doing them a service. So an example I used, think of an example, BT, for example, not selling somebody that's 75 years old broadband. Now, what does that stop them from being able to do? They can go and get their online newspaper instead of having to go to the shops. They can order their shopping online, whereas they wouldn't be able to get shopping if it snowed. So by not pitching it in the first place means that you're actually making a choice for them, and you're preventing them from being able to fulfill or solve the problem that they have. They may not know that they have that exact problem at this particular moment in time, but if you're highlighting it to them, that this is what it enables them to do, but you're not making that choice. You're giving them the option to take the solution that you're offering, and then that's up to them. So I think you're actually doing them a disservice by not providing the solution, or at least giving them the option to take the solution.
Absolutely. Al, so we talked there about bridging the gap. What do you think the best way is to bridge that gap then, without essentially pitching on the end? Because if you're this is the authority content and it's YouTube and it's a weekly video or more than weekly video, some people put out 2 or 3 a week. You're not going to want to pitch into a call at the end of every one, are you? So what do you think is the best route to bridge that gap into that conversion side?
Yeah, I think quite often it's a case of a lot of content, like say authority content and conversion content, might have similar titles or themes. It's just the amount of intensity and what you're asking them to do is different. So like as Nathan said before, it's like in a conversion or sales focused bit of content, you're not trying to pitch them as such. What you're actually asking them to do is you're telling them why they're stuck, and you're showing them what the solution is, and then you're asking them to make a decision or not. It might not be time for them to make that decision, but they at least know why they're stuck, and they know that there is a solution. In an authority piece, you might just be talking about like one or two small little tips or tricks that make life easier for them, but you're not going into depth. So what you can do to kind of bridge the gap is like, in any business, there's probably, say, about 3 to 5 major pain points or problems that you solve for your clients. And there's probably 3 to 5 major benefits they get once you've solved it for them. And if you know what those are, that is basically the gap. Like, so what you can do in your content is you can kind of, for each of those pain points or each of those benefits, you can create an endless amount of content. Now, then, as you said, you might not immediately want to say, and now go to my webinar, and now go to my challenge, and now go book a call. But there might be a gap where you go, hey, if you want to know a little bit more about how X affects you and how you can eliminate it, if you'd like to know a little bit more about, my program and how it helps people to X, Y, Z, I've got a free video, I've got a free download, I've got a free quiz, then you get them in there. And then immediately after that, it's like, hey, do you actually want to join this training I've got? Do you actually want to connect with one of my team and see how fast this could work for you? Do you actually want to? So you can kind of elegantly take people, because you're talking about problems and benefits and things that interest them. And all you're doing is just seeing at what point in the journey are they? Are they still in the stage where they want more information? They want to build trust. They don't know you. Or are they actually at that moment in their life where they're like, actually, no, I actually want to start to nail this. I think this is important to me. Let's spend some time to actually get on the phone. Let's spend some time to do a quiz. Let's spend some time. And that's what the customer journey is all about, is making sure that when somebody's ready to go to the next level, you have something there for them. And certainly not being ashamed or shy of having promotional content. Like, some people are like, oh, I don't like to sell. I don't like to, as Nate said, like, well, that means you don't actually like helping people. It's like, I like people to suffer. I don't like to actually solve the problems. Be fine with pitching, be fine with having conversion content. Just do it in a high integrity way, and make sure you have that there. But don't immediately go to people and be like, hey, buy my stuff. Because that is like the metaphor of like going on the first date and be like, what are we going to call our kids? It's like too soon. Get everything in its right time, but don't wimp out, don't miss out if there are people who might buy.
And don't be afraid to say, look, if the product isn't right for that person, it is, and don't sell it to them. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, unfortunately, this isn't the product or this isn't the solution for you. And if you do know something that would be a good solution, then recommend it, because the universe works in mysterious ways, and it will come back tenfold because you've done the right thing. Like, there's no, just because you've got somebody on the phone or somebody wanting to buy, and if you know full well that that's not going to solve their problem, be open and honest.
And I think there's also a bit in that as well, Alex, what you were saying, where it actually comes down to data capture as well. So if you're taking those key bullet points, 3 to 5 pain points in any business that you can identify and that you can solve, because a lot of people struggle with their lead gens. This is a great way to identify what your lead gens could be. If I solve X, Y, and Z, can I create something, a PDF download, a community, a webinar, whatever it is, a video that can help people solve that problem? Again, it kind of acts as an authority piece because you've got the answers. But the idea is you stick it behind a sort of a data wall. So the idea is you capture their data. Once you've got their data in a GDPR compliant way, then you can obviously then talk to them on a bit more of a conversion basis and push them towards those conversion pieces, those conversations, that discovery call, whatever you want to label it as. But it's a nice, soft way to transition through, because you're offering them value, and in return they're giving you data, which for you kind of go, right, well, they've consumed my content, they're in with me, so they've been with it, they understand it, they've watched it, so they've built up that emotional buy-in with me, and they're then taking that next step. So they're actually quite serious about what they want to know here. So maybe they really have got this problem that they need solving, or need it solving on a deeper level. So it gives you a higher quality lead into your funnel on the back end, which I think will probably lead quite nicely into the close of today's episode, which we have a free online training called the contentfunnelsecrets.com. So what I realized, I've worked with a few funnel builders and stuff over the years, and a lot of the clients that we find tend to have that back end ready, that marketing funnel, the sales funnel, whatever you want to call it. They have that back end, whether it's the landing page and the data capture and all that stuff that goes by. And normally what they tend to do is they tend to put a paid ad on the front of it, which works. Some people better than others. Obviously, it depends how good the content is and how well the message is designed. But the problem with that is the second you stop paying for the ad, 99% of the time, the funnel dies too, because you've got nothing else really pushing to it, nothing organic, nothing evergreen pushing to it. So the idea of what we come up with when we come up with the content funnel secrets and the strategy that we now use with ourselves and with our clients and partners too, is it is an ad-free, organic, evergreen solution that can work over a long period of time. Hopefully you won't stop it, but if you ever come to a point where you need to take a break out and you can't continue with it, the idea is it can still send leads your way because it still positions you. A lot of it is a lot of what we spoke about today. This training goes in a lot more depth and really lays out the strategy, and you can see you can visually see how we do it and how we break it down and how you can create content that fits into it aimed at people at different parts of their journey to make sure that they can push through to the next steps, and the why. So I won't pitch it too much. I don't want to turn it to too much of a pitch fest, but that is our content funnel secret. So we would love you to go over to that and go and take a look at that. So you can see that scrolling the bottom of your screen, or if you're on YouTube, it will be in the link in the description below. So other than that, I hope you have enjoyed this week's episode of ShatterCast, where we've spoke about everything visibility, authority, and conversion with content. And we will see you next week.